Remember the South Carolina firing squad, the execution firing squad. Remember, they passed a law allowing people to be killed by way of a firing squad mandate. Many people said, well, Doc, that'll never happen. Guess what? They have scheduled their first one, okay? They wasted no time. South Carolina has scheduled its first execution by death, for death by firing squad, now that corrections officials have updated their facilities to make sure that they can handle shooting someone until they die. The clerk of the state Supreme Court has set an April 29th execution date for Richard Moore. This has a lot of context. Richard Moore is a 57-year-old man who has spent more than 2 decades on death row after he was convicted of killing a store clerk named James Mahotny. This was in Spartanburg. Richard Moore, let's put up his picture. Richard Moore is one of 35 men on the South Carolina's death row. Moore's attorney says she will ask the court to stay the execution. Moore's last scheduled execution in 2020 was delayed after prison officials could not obtain lethal injection drugs, all right? Okay, details on the case of Mr. Moore. During Moore's 2001 trial, prosecutors said Moore entered the store looking for money to support his cocaine habit and got into a dispute with the store clerk who drew a pistol that Moore wrestled away from him. At the time, Moore claimed self-defense after the store clerk grabbed the gun. The store clerk pulled out a second gun and a gunfight ensued. The store clerk shot Moore in the arm and Moore shot the store clerk in the chest. Prosecutors said Moore left a trail of blood through the store as he looked for cash, stepping over the clerk, okay? His appeal lawyers said that because Moore did not bring a gun to the store, he could not have intended to kill someone, which is typically the prerequisite for death penalty. You must have significant malice intent to actually take the life of another person. He has exhausted his federal appeals in 2020 and the state Supreme Court denied another appeal this week. And Associate Justice Kay Hearn, let's put up Kay's picture. All right, Associate Justice Kay Hearn wrote a blunt 14-page dissent to the decision. Judge Hearn wrote the death penalty should be reserved for those who commit the most heinous crimes in our society. And I do not believe Moore's crimes rise to that level. Moore supporters voiced the same. Now, I think it's interesting to pause on this for a moment. Mr. Moore had an addiction. He had an addiction, that's a sickness, that's a mental health disorder. In order to feed this addiction, he committed a crime, okay? To take money that he did not earn, that's a crime. In the midst of that crime, he gets into a fight with the person trying to stop him from committing the crime. He ends up killing that person after he is shot, all right? Facts of the case. Kyle Rittenhouse obtains a firearm illegally, goes to another state, gets this firearm, and decides to engage in unlawful security, threaten individuals with the gun, and say just days before that he would like to murder individuals who are looting, which is against the law as well. That information was not provided for the jury, it was not allowed, but he said it. So you have a Rittenhouse who's armed unlawfully in another state, engaging in criminal mischief. He gets into a tussle and he decides to kill those in front of him. He has no underlying addiction. He does not have a mental health disorder. I'm not saying what Mr. Moore did is legal. I'm saying it was illegal what Mr. Moore did. It was not self-defense what Mr. Moore did, just as it was not self-defense, in my opinion, what Kyle Rittenhouse did. Making a comparison, I got more. So Moore could face a choice between the electric chair and the firing squad, 2 options available to death row prisoners after legislation altered the state's capital punishment law last year in an effort to work around a decade-long pause in executions. attributed to the correction agency's inability to procure lethal injection drugs, okay? So literally these folks said, because we cannot obtain the lethal injection drugs, which is required by statute, we're going to change the law so that we can make it easier to kill people. Now, let's talk about the death penalty for just a minute. They say the death penalty is for individuals who would likely commit the crime. It is for them to stop committing that crime. The death penalty has never stopped individuals from committing those crimes. As a matter of fact, in states that have the death penalty for capital murder, those states have a higher capital murder rate. 8 of the 9 states that do not, they have a lower capital murder rate. Let's call it what it is. It's revenge. It is revenge. It is state-sanctioned murder for the dynamic of revenge. All right, that's all it is. The state corrections agency said last month that it had finished developing the protocols for firing squad executions and completed $53,600 in renovations on the death chamber in Colombia, installing a metal chair and restraints with that faces a wall with a rectangular opening 15 feet away. You mean to tell me we got plenty of money in our states to create death chambers and you still got homeless people, you still got hungry folk, you're still cutting budgets for free lunch, but you got plenty of money to renovate a building to kill somebody. In the case of the firing squad execution, 3 volunteer shooters, all corrections department employees will have loaded rifles with live ammunition with their weapons trained on the inmate's heart. A hood will be placed over the head of the inmate who will be given the opportunity to make a last statement before they are shot until they die. Sounds cruel and unusual, does it not? Doesn't the Constitution say something about that? Interesting, isn't it? Jackson, thoughts here?
I think that was really brilliantly pointed out how you said it's really just about revenge. And this all boils back to, what we talk about often is just culture and the power of social symbolism and how people really, really work. And what we're really fighting for in our political involvement and what we really work to strengthen and empower our communities is to change people's perceptions, not just of themselves, but of others, because it leads to things like this. Kyle Rittenhouse falls under the umbrella of perception that he is an innocent kid who has a future ahead of him, while Exhibit B, he's lived his life, he's just whatever. You know what I'm saying? And we see this over and over and over again. And you learn this type of stuff even just in everyday life, like as you get older, like just affecting this with people. Again, power of culture and perception, like like body language, what you say versus what you don't say, how you carry yourself. All of that is more powerful than any of the words that we really put in. So the power of culture and perception is really what we're fighting to change, because this is the result of it.
You make a hell of a point, and I've said it another way, that culture eats policy alive every day. We talk about transforming policy, but if you do not transform the connected culture, that culture will eat the new policy up 7 days a week.